Okay, so I had just recorded and put up a podcast about commenting if you wanted to hear my journey with plant medicine, with ayahuasca. And I'm going to share it right now because I already got people liking, commenting, like sending messages. And I think it's so fun and it's so cool. And I literally had just posted it earlier this morning. So with that being said, I'm going to share with you my journey with plant medicine. And let me be clear. This is not to encourage you to go off and do it. This is not to sway your opinion or your belief system one way or another. I share with you this because I think it's important to hear that you are not cursed. You are not possessed. You aren't doing something wrong. Like if you believe that, God made the universe, God made trees and plants and flowers and animals and all these beautiful things that we have, like why wouldn't God make something called plant medicine, called ayahuasca, that will help you connect on a deeper level, that will help you clear out your subconscious mind, that'll help you heal from past beliefs or past trauma? Now, again, I don't recommend this to everybody, but I'm going to give you my journey and you decide for yourself. That's my disclaimer. So I'm going to get into this. So no, I did not poop my pants. No, I did not throw up all over everybody. I did get sick the first time, but it was the most beautiful thing in the world. So I'm going to explain to you the 3 times I did it. I'm going to go through the sequence of events. So my first one, I had been researching and I'm like, oh my gosh, Tiff, everybody's journey is different. So I need to stop researching. I just need to go for it. So I had my friend go with me and they have you dress in like all white for like purity and to not bring in like bad spirits. And I'm like, well, okay, that already scared me right there. So I definitely wore white on my first one. So I went in and it was at this beautiful place and it's kind of like a church place that they rented out. And it was at the top of this mountain overlooking the beach and it was just gorgeous. So they put men on one side and women on the other. And they do that because they don't want like the liability and they don't want that masculine and feminine energy. Like there was literally people beating their chest, like men jumping around like apes under the influence of that. And so I could see why they wanted to separate them. So that energy, we were all a bunch of females and we had our sleeping bags out. And at first I was like, wait, how am I going to am I going to kick around? Am I going to thrash around? What am I going to do here? So I thought I was going to be totally cramped and tight. I was in a fetal position the whole entire time until the very end when I sobered up. So it didn't bother me. I didn't even know people were around me. So it didn't bother me. I remember they were so excited. They started like playing the music and he warned us or educated us that the music takes us on a journey. And I think it's so cool. Like when I was at my church, at my Christian church a while back, and I remember thinking music puts you in such a great mood or puts you in a sad mood or gets you into your feels. And how beautiful is it that God made like part of worship to be listening to music, which is also kind of scary because if you listen to the wrong music, it could definitely get into your mind in the wrong way. So what he said is like when you hear like the drums beating, we're kind of like beating things that no longer serve you out of you. When you hear this long old horn that they blow in, it's like this weird vibrational sound and it would dredge up like the sickness in me. I felt like I was going to throw up. So he told us ahead of time that this music, sometimes it was going to be really happy and it was going to put you in your good feels. So imagine this, right? All the band is setting up and I don't know how they drink ayahuasca and they played the banjo, they played the drums, they played the guitar, they sing under the influence. I was ass out. There was no way that I was going to be able to even speak to people or like smile, let alone be playing the banjo or something. But they're experts at it. They've done this like 188 times. So and you learn something new every time. So he's the expert. So anyways, him and his wife started singing and they started bringing up everybody in a line. And you drink this stuff and it's like licoricey, muddy, rooty stuff. Now, I drink alcohol, so I don't know, not a lot, but I drink alcohol. And if I can take shots of vodka, that was nothing to me, but it does have kind of a weird texture. I did see certain, like even men, they were like they wanted to throw up, but a lot of them were people that have done it so many times. It's almost like that taste. They're preparing themselves for that taste, so they knew what to expect. So it kind of grossed them out more. But for me, I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. So I went and sat down. They keep playing music. And I remember he was singing this like really happy song. And it was like something about like, there's a spy hole in my eye that carries me from the earth up to the sky. I'm like, what is this song? What the heck is going on here? But everyone was in a pretty happy mood. So I sat there in my all white and I was sitting there like with my legs crossed and I was just like, oh gosh, here we go. And I remember as I started about like 20 minutes in, I was taking notes and I was journaling and my eyes got kind of like fuzzy and blurry. And I looked at this tree and it started to kind of like laugh like, huh. And I was like, oh my God, here we go. And the more it started laughing, the more I realized, oh, trees have a spirit, like trees are life and has an energy about it. And give your worries to the trees. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Give my worries to the trees. Okay, not so bad. So then I looked down at my legs and I kid you not, it was like a green iridescent like scales. It was beautiful. It was the most gorgeous. It doesn't even exist on this earth. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. My legs are like iridescent scales. And I'm like, okay, so this is so far like not scary. I still remembered I was a human being, like everything's good. And I kept looking at the clock. And I remember thinking, okay, so they said you can't leave. They said it should be over in 4 hours. So 4 hours of that, it's crazy. Like, put your seatbelt on when you do ayahuasca if you decide to do it because it is insane. So anyways, I looked at the clock and I kept thinking 10 o'clock is when it started like kick in. So that means 4 hours later. So like maybe like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock as it starts to wear off like 2.5, 3 hours in, I would be okay. And I'd be able to literally, they said you can like drive off after. And it's true. Like that's how you know it's a medicine and it's not like a drug because you can't just like get wasted and go off into another planet and go drive off after like 3 or 4 hours. So I kept looking at the clock and all of a sudden I saw like butterflies and dragonflies and all this like really like beautiful stuff like flowers kind of like melting over the clock. And I remember the message that I got was stop controlling time. Stop worrying about time. Time is just something that's like here on earth and you're always looking at what's next. What's next? When is it going to be over? And you're not being present. So I'm like, ooh, okay, noted. So I kind of started to write it down. After a while, you talk about like 30, 40 minutes in, there is no way that I was able to write anymore. What was trippy and it kind of scared me as I started looking at people next to me and they turned off the music for a second and they had everyone like deep breathing. And I saw this girl next to me like sweating and she was not good. And she was like, and just like, I could see her dripping sweat. And I looked at her blanket and I saw there was an energy about it. And I'm like, ooh, everything's energy. Okay, even a blanket has energy. She was not doing good. She started to like huff and puff and somebody walked over to her and was talking to her. You got, get this. There's literally guardians that they drink also. And I was like, wait, all the guardians are drinking. They're watching over me. And they're like, I'm like, how are they going to take care of me if they're under the influence also? And they're like, that's how they take care of you. They can like spiritually, energetically connect with you and know when you need help more so than if they didn't drink. And I'm like, that's scary. In my personal opinion, I think that there should always be like one sober person there. But I don't know. I don't think there was any of the times that I did it. So I think everybody has to drink. That's like the ritual there. So, I started laying down. They played this song and it was something about like a guardian angel and it was in Portuguese and it was the most beautiful song ever. And I laid back and I remember seeing this like woman's spirit coming to me and I in a big bright light. And it was like my third eye was opening and she was so beautiful and was kind of like Shiva with all the arms. And I don't even know anything about the Shiva or whatever. I've never studied that, but it was the most beautiful thing. And she blew on me like, and all this white and all this like light and love came over me. And I was just so happy. My third ayahuasca trip was not this happy, but my first one was beautiful. So I remember she showed me this big old TV screen and she was like, all right, I'm going to show you something right now. Like, you ready? And I was like, yes. And she showed me my soon-to-be ex-husband, because ayahuasca ended up helping me make a decision, didn't make it for me, but made me a decision to get a divorce. So she showed me how much my husband at the time loved me and how much he actually just didn't know how to show his love and how he was like controlling in his own ways and he was pushing me away, but it was only because he was insecure and he loved me. And so I kept saying like, okay, that's great. He loves me, but what about my kids? That's my concern. And she kept saying, I want to show you how much he loves you. I want to show you how much he loves you. And it was like this TV screen. And I remember finally she split the screen. I say she, like I think it's Shiva. I don't even know if it's a she, masculine or feminine energy, but it didn't matter. So then she showed me and my kids running through a flower field. And I was so happy with them. It was just me and them. And we were holding hands and like running. And there was all these like fall colored leaves. And I remember the spirit telling me through, obviously wasn't speaking to me. It was just everything was going on in my head. I believe it was in my soul. Don't worry about your kids. Your kids are going to be fine. You're an amazing mom no matter what. If you stay, if you go, whatever, your kids are going to be fine. I was like, got it. And she's like, okay, now let me show you some things. She showed me friends of mine that were boating. We used to have a boat together, my ex-husband and I, with like visors on, and they had beer bongs. And they were like, come on, leave your husband, party, drink, like act a fool. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about your ex-husband, at the time, my husband. And I remember like the other person just going, hey, let's party. Hey, like they didn't care about my relationship. They just wanted to party. And so it really showed me, don't listen to those kinds of people because they love me. They're my friends, but they don't care about my relationship. It was really about me. And I started getting really like sick, and I started hearing like all those times that he said, you're so stuck in the past. I don't even do that anymore. All these things. And I remember throwing up this waterfall, like they give you buckets in case you throw up. I was throwing up this waterfall, the most beautiful emotions. I didn't even realize I was throwing up. And it was like this waterfall I just pictured going down like far, far, far into the earth. And all these memories, all this resentment was coming out of my head. And I remember one of the guardians came over and she looked at me and she smiled so angelic, and she swapped out my bowl. And she's like, are you okay? And I was like, whoa, I'm a human. That's right. I forgot I'm on ayahuasca. And she's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, thank you. And she swapped out my bowl. And I felt so amazing. And all of a sudden, like I remember I was holding my hands together and I was just like praying and I was just praying. And it was just like telling me like, reach out to God. God is real. Like, Jesus is real. And I got all these things. I was just squeezing my hands, praying. And I was so grateful for my kids, and I was grateful for my life. And everything was just so beautiful. And I threw up all my resentment in that church. I was by a window. And I remember I looked up and I saw this like beautiful bird with like red wings. And I don't know if that was real or if it was just like in my imagination. But I remember seeing like, look at that bird as like all the possibilities of your life, and that you fly alone. You are independent. You never look to other people. Like you're always able to look at things from a third party perspective. When I move through challenges now, I remember I just look at it from a third eye and a third party perspective as if it's happening to somebody else. Like any challenges, I just go, okay, is it really that big of a deal? If so, it's like, okay, fine. How do I move through it? Usually it's like 99% of the time, it's really not that big of a deal. So I learned to move through those kinds of challenges because of that bird. And what's crazy is I went home to my ex-husband, soon to be ex-husband, and I'll tell you why I ended up leaving. And I was like, it was so beautiful. Like I got connected to God, like everything is energy. And it showed me how much you love me and that no matter what, my kids are going to be okay. And I saw this beautiful spirit and Shiva and like all this stuff and like how grateful I am for my life. And it was just, and how like learn how to be present and stop trying to control time. So I was just like hugging him. I was like, I love you so much. Well, we would always fight when we would go boating because he's not a nice person. He has a very bad temper. We went boating like 6 weeks later. And I remember him yelling at me when we were on the boat. And this is like, I had already thrown up all my resentment. And I was just like trying to just remember, like be present and like be grateful for him. And he loves me and he doesn't know what he does sometimes. And maybe it's just insecurity and all this stuff. And I remember him yelling at me. He just like ripped my heart out that day. And the things he was saying to me was like, whoa. And I thought, wait a minute. I'm not stuck in the past. It's not like, oh, I don't do that to you anymore. You're so stuck in the past. As I was remembering that, like in the present moment, he's still doing these things to me. He's still hurting my soul. This black bird with red wings, just like, I almost heard it like caw, like make a noise. And it went right past the boat. And I'm like, oh my God, that's my symbol from ayahuasca to remember, like, you're not crazy. You're being gaslit. And you're actually correct that he lies to you and tells you you're so stuck in the past, but you're wrong. So I believe that ayahuasca cleared out my resentment so I could see from like a really clear-headed lens and not be gaslit and manipulated that like it's me and it's not him. So then I went to Target a couple weeks later and he was like rushing me and I was with my kids and I remember him saying like, God, what's taking you so long? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I remember I was getting Easter baskets because it was around Easter time. And I took the kids with me to get Easter baskets because he didn't want to watch the kids. And I remember him rushing me to get home. And I'm like, why am I always in a hurry? What's going on? Like, I took the kids with me, Easter basket shopping and all this stuff. And I kid you not, this black bird with little red wings right here was sitting on my shopping cart just staring at me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not stuck in the past. This is being rushed. This is like being a people pleaser. This is having no boundaries. I should have left the kids with him if I was the one going and buying and spending the time for Easter basket and getting little Easter eggs and all of that. And I got home and I was, that night was Easter and I was putting out all the eggs, the plastic eggs, and I was hiding them in the house. And he's like, you're not even hiding them. Like, what are you even doing this for? Like, this is so silly. And he was just going off and like gaslighting me and making me feel bad. And I thought, that is it. I am out. I am out. But because of ayahuasca, I was able to see clearly, and I was able to understand that, like, make a decision from a clear head. It's not you, it's him. And I got empowered from that situation. I realized that, like, the tree's got my back. Jesus has got my back. Don't worry about time. Time's going to pass no matter what. Just be present. And I learned so much from it. So if you want part 2, my second ayahuasca, and my third, it's all different stuff that I learned. It's all different experiences. My third one, I literally had a panic attack. They had to take me out, and I learned that I created my own stress. And if you want to hear that story and how I was overthinking, how I was overcomplicating, how people are good, they're not out to get me, and all those awesome things I learned, then comment below and I will give you my part 2 and my part 3. Again, I'm not encouraging you to do this, but I listened to a podcast of somebody who is a multimillionaire, and she was saying that she thinks that that's like demonic. She thinks that she was fighting off demons. Well, that's okay. I mean, that's her journey. And I do think that my third time was really, really scary, but I think that my scariness, it happened for a reason. And I know that there's a deeper meaning to why any of us have experiences, even if it's really, really scary. So again, I don't know where your beliefs are with doing ayahuasca. And I'm not here to pass judgment. I'm not here to judge you if you don't want to do it. If you do want to do it, I'm just here sharing my experience. But I do not believe that I was cursed or demonically possessed. And you know what was cool is I will share this information here. In one of my experiences in part 2, I remember my one of the guardians was giving me crap because I wore a green pants and a white shirt. And I wore green pants because it was camouflage. So I'm like, okay, it's earthy, right? Very earthy. So I remember her saying, like, you're having such a hard time because you didn't wear all white. You're supposed to wear all white. And I remember thinking, like, it was because it was my time of the month and I didn't want to leak and wear white and, you know, all these things. And I remember her saying, like, oh, girl, that's just an excuse, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I remember getting the intuition of, I don't have to explain myself to anybody. God's got my back, whether I wear white or camo Lululemons, and God knows my reasoning for not wearing white, and it's okay. And what's crazy is half hour later, this is in my part 2, if you want to hear the full story, half hour later, she came over to me and she said, Tiff, I think I bled through my pants and I'm wearing all white. This is crazy, right? And I said, oh, and I pulled out my freshly folded white pants and I loaned him to her and I was like, here you go. And she's like, you do have white pants. And I was like, yes, and I didn't explain I have white pants. It's just that I wore green in case I leaked and then in case I felt like this and that. I didn't need to explain it to her because guess what? I believe that God showed her not to pass judgment on other people because guess what? Thank God I had my extra pair of pants. Those were meant for her because she actually leaked through her white pants and started her period. And I'm so crazy, right? I can't believe I shared this information. She said, Tiff, that is wild because I wasn't starting my time of the month for another 2 weeks from now. So somehow the universe had her start her time of the month within like half hour after she kind of like made fun of me for wearing green pants. So it was just that people pleaser in me came out and was just like, Tiff, you don't have to explain yourself to anybody. Like God's got your back. Don't fear that you're going to be punished by God because you did ayahuasca or because you didn't wear white. My final thoughts on this is, first of all, I hope you don't think I'm a crazy person because I'm actually extremely sane. I am not cursed. I've had so many blessings happen in my life from my journey. And You make the decision yourself, but don't let other people tell you that you should or shouldn't. Trust your gut, pray about it, ask your subconscious, your superconscious, when you fall asleep tonight, hey, should I do something like this? And you make the decision for yourself, because your direct connection to your higher self and to God is the only way that you should be making decisions, whether it's life, whether it's business, whether it's to do plant medicine or not, or whatever the case may be. So I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you.